Good morning, St. Marians. Welcome everyone in History and Civics classes for class 10th. Students, on last turn I have told you to tick the question answers in your textbook. This week I am saying you that you have to complete at least 20 short answers in your fair notebook. In your book there are 27 question answers, and out of that you can complete 20 answers in your book. Question which are repeated you can leave those questions, and if you are having any problem in any question, you are not finding answer, then you can write me in comment section. I can answer that particular question. And in case of structured question, you have to complete at least two answers, that is question number 1 and question number 3. How to complete answers in case of structured question? I would like to tell you that in history we are having format of for the long answer 3 3 4, means first two questions of 3 marks and last question of 4 marks. So same questions are given in a book, three parts are there, 3 3 4 is the format. So first two questions you have to complete with 4 points at least or 4 headings, and third question you have to complete with 5 points at least or 5 headings, so that you can secure better marks in board examination. And that length of that structured question should be at least 1.5 page. So for a structured question, at least 1.5 page should be there for 10 marks. So now we can move to chapter number 2, and that is growth of nationalism. So students, we are going to discuss today the topic number 2 or chapter number 2, growth of nationalism. So what is nationalism? You know well, the feeling of oneness. It may be according to the culture, we are sharing the same culture, or we are sharing ancient culture. So sharing that same feeling of oneness while we are sharing the same culture is known as nationalism. So Indians were united against the Britishers. In which way? This chapter we are going to discuss that particular factors. What were the factors which were responsible for the oneness of Indians against the Britishers? So let's move to the syllabus which we are going to discuss in this video. So we'll have today this particular syllabus. Only these 2 points we'll discuss today. That is economic exploitation, point number 1, and point number 2, repressive colonial policies. So these 2 points we will discuss today. So first point we are going to start, that is economic factors promoting to the growth of nationalism. So these were there. Which factors we are going to discuss today? Economic exploitation as well as repressive colonial policies. So in first topic or first heading, we are having 4 subparts of this one. So let's go for first one, that is the peasants. So who are the peasants? We know well, peasants are the farmers which are producing their crops for their self as well as for the society. So what was the problem? Problem was there that they were the main victims of colonial policies. So what is colony? We have already discussed. Again I am telling that India was a British colony, means that Britishers were using India for their economic benefits. So in that way they were imposing a huge amount or large amount of land revenue and the taxes on the poor farmers. And in case of famines, in case of drought conditions, in case of floods, they were not able to pay those high taxes or high land revenues. So they have to come in the trap of money lenders or landlords, and in this way they have lost their piece of land also, and they were ruined. So if that farmers will ruined, then how they can think about the betterment, how they can favor the government. So peasants turned against the British government, or resentment came in the peasant. due to that high taxes or high land revenue. So this was the point number 1. So I want to underline this one. These two things are there, that land revenue and other taxes, and second point, the clutches of landlords and money lenders. So why they came in the clutches of landlord and money lenders? Because of land revenue and other taxes, and this land revenue was a huge part of their production which they were producing in their fields. So let's move for the next topic, that is artisans and craftsmen. Let me explain which are artisans and what are craftsmen. So artisans are the artists, maybe that they may be doing some embroidery, they may be doing some, they are making individual handmade items which were being sold in other countries or outside the India they were exporting, or they can sell in the Indian market also, in home market also. But what happens in the case of Britishers, uh, we know well the Britain was having industrial revolution, so they were making that furnished goods, and whatever they need raw material for that one. So if we are discussing about handicrafts, so raw material, especially the cotton, they were importing from India without any import duty. So what was the matter? Matter was there that cotton was going from here to Britain on very low price, and from where they were making that furnished goods and selling in that goods in the Indian market, and that's why that Indian handicraft workers were not getting that raw material. That's why they became jobless, and machine made goods came in that Indian market due to industrial revolution in Britain. That's why the artisans also became jobless. So while they became jobless, and hunger is that most important enemy of any person. So if they were hungry, then they turned just like the enemy of the British government. Because of British government, they have lost their jobs, they were suffering, they were striving from hunger. So it was the second point in case of artisans and craftsmen. Both have lost their employment, and that's why the resentment came against the British government. So next point we are going to discuss, that is working class. So what is working class? Due to that birth of industry in India, as well as in 1854 in Mumbai, first cotton mill was established by Britishers, uh, and these factories were owned by the Englishmen, and they were not having that enough workers for working in their factories. So what they did, they employed Indian uh, workers, and Indian workers were not paying good salaries. They were paid very low salary, and they have to work a lot. It means that more work pressure and less salaries. So their outlook and interest were very broad, covering whole India, and their factories were located in the cities, and these cities, they were employing the people on low salaries and high work pressure. So that's why these persons who were working in those factories, they were very soon tired up with their work, and they came to know the facts about their working conditions, and that's why they turned against the Britishers. So that was the working class which was developed by Britishers in India, or the industrial workers which were getting very less salary, and conditions for working was not hygienic according to that or compared to the Britishers. So that was the resentment in that workers or working class. Next point we are going to discuss about uh, educated Indians. So educated Indians, we know well that in Britishers introduced British education system in India, and by their system they were developing, or they were making Indians educated. And after education, whenever that Indians were demanding the jobs, So the problem was there that with the same qualification that Britishers were getting the high salaries and Indians were getting the low salaries. On other hand, one more discrimination was there that Britishers were having the high chances of promotion and Indians were having very bleak chances of promotions, and that's why that resentment came in the mind of educated Indians when they came to know that discrimination between the Europeans and Indians. So that's why they turned against the Britishers, or that feeling of oneness became strong while the discrimination was there between the Europeans and the Indians. So the next point we are going to discuss, that is colonial policy. So who introduced colonial policy in India? You are watching this picture. He is Lord Lytton, and he worked in India from 1876 till 1880, and he was the Viceroy of India, and he introduced few changes in India, or he was responsible for this introduction of colonial policy in India. So what was the matter? He is well known for Delhi Grand Darbar, which was introduced in 1877. So before this, before 1 year, 1876, there was a famine in India, and in that millions of people or Indians were affected, and they were suffering, but government didn't help in any way to these Indians. On other hand, they call Queen of Victoria to India in 1877, and on this event they have spended lakhs of rupees. And on other hand, that Indians were in the trap of famines, so Indians turned against the Britishers because that they were suffering from famines, and the government is celebrating that grand Delhi Darbar. So on that they have spent millions of rupees, and they have not spent even a single rupee on the famine which Indians were suffering. So that was that main main policy of British, sorry, we can say so that that was the main drawback by which that growth of nationalism developed in Indians. So second one, we are going to discuss about Lord Lytton. So Lord Lytton, uh, this viceroy introduced one act, this which is known as Vernacular Press Act, and second act was also introduced by him, that was Indian Arms Act. So we'll discuss these two acts. First of all, let me explain what are vernacular languages. So vernacular languages are regional languages which are used in India from place to place. So presently we are having 22 regional languages which are authorized by the Indian Constitution. At the in the same way, that time we were having many regional languages, and these regional languages were printing some newspapers, and in these blogs and articles something was written, and they were criticizing the policy of the government due to resentment in the mind of Indians. So this Lord Lytton introduced one act and declared that to publish any material that might excite the feeling of dissatisfaction against the British government is banned. Means that these regional newspapers cannot write anything else against the government according to this act. If they are found guilty, then that will be banned, and the person who is owning this press will be behind the bars. So according to this act, they have suppressed that vernacular languages to print anything. On other hand, that English newspapers were free from this act because Britishers were able to write whatever was being written in English newspapers. And one more thing, that English newspapers were having the support of British government. So that's why it was kept beyond the effect of this Vernacular Press Act. Second act which was introduced, that was Indian Arms Act 1878. This act was that any European can have the firearms without any license On the other hand, Indians were not allowed to have the fire weapons without license. What does it mean? It means that Europeans were less in number, so they were having some fear from Indians. So that's why they can have arms act. They can have fire weapons, while on Indians, while on other hand, Indians may not have firearms because they were more in number. This was the logic given by Britishers, and this was a total discrimination on the base of creed, means Europeans are superior and Indians are inferior. So this was the another cause for growth of nationalism. Next point we are going to discuss today, that age limit of Indian Civil Services examination. So ICS examination, who were participating, the age was 21 years, but they have reduced it 19 years. It means that 2 attempts were less who were willing to be the ICS. That time it was ICS, now it is IAS. So being a civil servant, you will get 2 less attempts, and this was only for Indians, not for Britishers or Europeans. So again it was a discrimination against the Indians. So that's why the growth of nationalism became strong due to this act. Next one we are going to discuss about import duties. So I have told you in previous heading about that export and import. So import duties are the duties which are imposed while we are importing something. So when British textiles were importing from India, they were having less duties or near about null and void, means no duty was there. And on other hand, while they were exporting to India, then they were taking more and more taxes, so that raw material became very cheaper, and that furnished good became very costly. So we can say so that it was harmful for Indian industries, and that's why that Indians were on back foot, and a strong feeling of oneness or unity against the Britishers were survived. So now next point we are going to discuss, last point, it is C.P. Ilbert Bill. So C.P. Ilbert was a viceroy, and he introduced the bill that any European can have the trial against the Indian judge. So what does it mean? It means that any European who is involved or who is a person captured in any case can have the trial against the Indian judge, or Indian judge can listen that European person's problem also, their cases also. So this was a good introduction, but this Viceroy Council didn't accept this one, because most of the Britishers were against in the council, and this bill was fell down. So after falling down this bill, the Indians were having the resent, because it was clearly mentioned that Europeans are superior and Indians are inferior. So Indian judge cannot have the decision against the European person, or we can say so that they have given the logic that they are having they are against Europeans, so the decision will go against the Europeans. So that's why they have given the logic, and this bill was fell down, and that's why Indian turned against the Britishers, or a growth of nationalism was there in India. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. We'll meet again in with the next causes for or factors for growth of nationalism. Till then, have a nice day.